Welcome everybody to the Trickle Up. Here, I am going to be a co-host today. I'm Nel Nieves. Today we have Mia and Heidi Briones. Mia is actually the regular here, but I'm filling in for Boyce today, and just want to welcome everybody. Give me a second because I have to say my line. my line. All right, guys. So, let's see if we can change some minds tonight, or preferably, let's see if we can move this country forward. So, Mia, what do we have today?
Okay, well, first we have, hi Heidi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing, Mia?
I want to say hi, we have Heidi. It's good to see you. It's been a really long time, and we can either talk about the book tour first, the Forward Party 6 Principles, or what was the third thing again? Gosh, I'm blanking now. I wrote it down.
Well, we got the book here. We're talking about Forward.
Yes, we're talking about Forward. And, the article.
Yeah, the Politico article.
Yeah, the Politico article.
Yes.
Which isn't it a chapter or an excerpt?
Yeah, I think it's an excerpt from directly from the book.
Mm-hmm.
I believe. It's a toss-up. We can choose whichever one. We want to talk about the. You know what? Let's talk about the book tour first. How about that? And then we can talk about the book, right?
Wonderful. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah. So, guys, in case you are unaware, for those of you watching, excuse me, for those of you watching, if you're unaware, Andrew Yang has just written a new book called Forward. I have a copy with right here, and it's being released in about 2 days. Today's October 3rd. This live stream is October 3rd. In 2 days is the release date. And he will have a book tour. You can look up information on that at andrewyang.com. And yesterday, actually, I was at a private event shooting video and photos where it was a private book signing event before the book tour itself begins. So it was some people got some advanced copies 2 days early yesterday, and there is a video that I want to share. It's a clip from yesterday's speech that Andrew gave at the event, and I'm going to go ahead and share that right now. I'm going to go ahead and post it, and let's see what Andrew says. This is about a minute long, I think, maybe about 2 minutes long. Yeah, it's about 2 minutes, 11 seconds. So let me put that on, and then we'll talk about it. All right? Okay, here we go.
But interestingly enough, this real-life answer to the problems I've laid out comes from Alaska. How many of you have been up on the news where you know about Senator Lisa Murkowski and what's been going on with her? So she's in the news because she is the only Republican senator who voted to impeach Donald Trump, who is up for re-election next year. Very newsworthy. Her approval rating among Alaskan Republicans is now 6%. It genuinely is political suicide to go against Donald Trump when you have a Republican primary. But last year, Alaska actually changed its system where there is not a party primary anymore in Alaska. It goes straight to an open primary that's available to everyone. So Senator Murkowski actually can take her case to the 51% of Alaskan voters who think that she's a fine public servant and entitled to her own independent judgment, and has a genuine chance at winning. Do you all think that maybe that change in the system might even have affected her decision?
Yeah.
Of course it did, because like any rational actor, you respond to incentives. What happened was her incentives actually changed, where she does not have to go through a party primary. She can just make her case to the genuine public, and then her behavior changes. The way that Alaska got this was not through any act of Congress. It was through a ballot initiative of a bunch of people in Alaska said, you know what, I think this would be better for us, for our representatives. It would actually unlock them from the polarizing incentives that they're subject to. The same measure is available in 24 other states around the country. No act of Congress necessary. All we have to do is get enough Americans together to say enough is enough. We are sick of the madness, and we want to change it by improving your incentives. Overnight, we could make half our legislators more reasonable and prone to compromise. It could pull us back from the brink.
All right, exciting. Well, I've done enough talking right now, so I will hold my comments. I will hand it over to Heidi. Heidi, what do you think about this?
That's very interesting. I mean, I clearly believe in open primaries as somebody who's run for office. I mean, it's, I think, was over 90%. I can't remember the exact percentage, but so many primaries are solid or safe, either blue or red in the country. And that really means that the chance of primarying an incumbent and winning is nearly impossible. It's interesting in the light that he's discussing it. That's kind of the opposite. That's more like somebody who wants to keep their seat rather than somebody that wants to come up and challenge them. But it's still nevertheless important, because you could be in that situation where you have, you know, a solid blue or a solid red. Apparently it's a solid red district that he's talking about. I'm not super familiar, but in that case, if your party decides to go against you, despite your state or your district actually being for you, then you're put in a pretty awkward position where you can lose while still being popular or still being effective. So, I mean, highly interesting. I mean, he said 24 states is just a ballot initiative. I mean, it's a little concerning because that's only about half of the country. So I'd like to know what it takes for the other. It sounds like an act of Congress, possibly, for the other states to move that direction. But it's still, I mean, the bright side is that if we could get that done with just signatures, that's pretty easy, fairly easy. Just really feet on the ground and getting people mobilized. Yeah, but overall, I mean, highly interesting. And I definitely think open primaries is something that we should focus on, obviously, as well as, ranked choice voting or other democracy reform measures. But I think that the thing is that most people are now, or at least half of people are now, nonpartisan or independents. And those people feel like they have nowhere to go, or they literally have nowhere to go. In some states, you can't vote. I currently am non-affiliated with a party, so I wouldn't be able to vote in any party primary at all. And many people are in that position in many states, so they just don't vote. So it really, just tells people that they're homeless. They don't have a say in who the actual candidates will be once you get to the general. So by the time they go to vote in the general, they're like, wow, I had no say in this, and I really don't care still. And so I might just not vote in the general as well. So I think that, it's very important that we focus on these things. And I love that that's the first thing that we're talking about as far as the Forward Party, that we're really talking about these kinds of reforms. So it's exciting. It's great to hear I'm presented in that manner.
It is exciting. Mia, what do you have to say? What do you think about this?
Well, I'm going to start by saying I want to know which of those 24 states are what, because that's going to make a lot of difference, right? If it's purple states where they swing slightly one direction or the other, that's going to make a really big difference. If it's all like solid blue, solid red states, then you're going to take these like exceptional situations for it to really make a dent, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But it's important to have exceptional situations be able to be responded to with exceptional responses. I hate to use the same word twice, but it's the only one I can think of.
No, it's fine. Any other comments?
Also, that obviously open primaries are very important. I believe we have them here in Michigan, and it's something that's allowed me to be an independent, to vote Green Party, to have my say on things as things develop. I don't like voting for a specific person based on their party. I like voting based on their ideas, when that's not going to affect the entire country negatively.
Correct. No, it makes sense. Well, I can tell you this. The reason I like open primary, the idea of an open primary, is for the fact that in 2016, as many of you know, I say this all the time, I'm a Republican who switched to Democrat to vote for Andrew Yang. what does that mean? I'm pretty much like you, Mia, just how you explained. I don't vote for party. I vote for the person. When I like the person, then that's the person I'm going to go with. You know what I mean? So I believe Heidi is the same exact way. And so when it comes to open primaries in 2016, I was a Republican, and I didn't know anything about how primaries worked, closed or whatever. I didn't know that there was such thing as closed primary states. I just know that I was going to go vote. Hillary was running, and it was primaries, and I saw Hillary, I saw Bernie, and I saw Trump, on the other side, and I was like, I'm not voting for Trump. I don't want Hillary, so I want to vote for Bernie. And I showed up to the polls in New York State, which is a closed primary state, and when I showed up, they said they couldn't find my name in the book. And so I'm like, okay, I'm here. I want to vote for Bernie. Come on. And they said,
I'm a Republican that wants to vote for Bernie. They're like, we don't know what to do with you, man. You got to get out of here. Like,
yeah. Well,
you're confusing us. Like, what's going on?
Yeah. Well, they came and they were like, well, sir, are you a registered Democrat? And I said, no, I'm not. I'm a registered Republican. I said, oh, sir, I'm sorry, sir. You can't vote in this primary. This is for Democrats. And I'm like, what? But I'm an American. Like, I should be able to vote. And they said, I'm sorry, sir, you can't vote. And they turned me away. And that for me was like, oh my God, like, what the hell? Like, I don't understand this. So they explained it to me. And then, so I already knew by the time 2020 came, I already knew that that I was possibly going to switch my, okay, either a Republican was going to challenge Trump, right, after he won, or which didn't happen, right? Or I was going to end up switching to Democrat to vote for somebody. And so when the Democratic primaries came in 2020, I started looking to see who the hell I'm going to vote for. There were like 23, 24 people, right? 26 maybe, who knows, people that I'm looking for. And so when I looked at the whole lineup, I listened to everyone. But when we got to Andrew Yang, that's where I stopped. I said, no, this is the guy I'm voting for. Like, I mean, it was a no-brainer once I heard Andrew speak. So that's definitely how it went. And, now I knew then to switch, right? But now, I'm stuck as a Democrat, even though I don't feel like a Democrat, I don't feel like a Republican, but I'm stuck here because New York is a closed primary state. And so you're right, Mia. What states are these? Because I would like to know. If we're thinking about moving somewhere, I want to move to one of these states. So so I think this is exciting. I don't know if he said it in that clip. But I know that he mentioned that um she did he mention in that clip that because I know he said it in person, her approval rating went way down when she spoke against Donald Trump. Yes, I think he mentioned it. But
Yeah.
it just changed the incentives around. Like, now that her state was open primaries, she could say whatever the hell she wants because she doesn't have to worry about her base, going against her. So it's a whole other 6%, correct, boys, thanks. But anyway, I think that's that for this topic. Mia, what else do we have? Or unless anybody has anything to say.
Well, no, I think I'm good.
Yeah.
What about
Yeah.
you, Heidi?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure that incentives would be totally changed. I'm just going to push back a little bit on Andrew because there's still money incentives. There's still like getting financial backing. So I think it's still like, let's say, for example, I was in Oregon and I'm going to come out and like just start talking against Biden, which is something that I've done. That doesn't make me very popular. Like in my state, even if we had open primaries, it still would be tough to raise money, tough to get like, endorsements, tough to do a lot of things still. So I think that it's definitely good and helpful and it's a good direction to go in. But I mean, I'm from California and we've had open primaries there for a while. And I mean, there was still the same kind of corruption and, same kind of things going on within the parties. So I think that it's a great start. It's definitely the direction we should move in, but it's definitely not a panacea or what. Oh, it's not going to solve everything either. There are still some things to deal with as far as campaign finance and just overall partisanship. And I think that the further principles in the Forward Party do address some of those. So that's good to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably more like a domino effect where we're looking at different ways to stress the system so that we can push it in the direction we want it. Not necessarily one there's no cure-all. If there were a cure-all, somebody would have stepped in and fixed it already. That's just the way that is. We gotta push from different directions and multiple approaches and see what does work and what doesn't work and follow through. Guys, stick with us and follow through. That's the most important thing.
Yep.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Yep. And if you guys are just tuning in, we are discussing Andrew Yang's new book, Forward. So it's being released October 5th in 2 days. So make sure you pick up your copy if you haven't already received one ahead of time. Okay. Sorry. All right, Mia, so what do we have next?
Okay, well, I think that Heidi brought up the 6 principles of the Forward Party. I think we should probably spend a little bit of time talking about that now.
Yeah,
because I'm sure
Yeah.
the audience is curious. Are you curious, audience?
I think they're curious. You know what? Well, let me bring up a graphic. Let me see if I can do it this way. Let me bring up a graphic just to show everybody the 6 principles. Let me share my screen. Share here. Stop screen share. Share my screen here. Sorry, guys. It's a window, and here it is. And then okay, let me bring it up. Okay, great. So this. Oh, yep. Okay. All right. So these are the 6 principles of the Forward Party, and let's. You know what? I guess Heidi, do you want to start and maybe discuss them?
Sure.
Good.
You just want me to go through them, or just
we can go through them. Talk about each point, point by point. We've already spoken about open primaries, but ranked choice voting is also a top issue. But let's go point by point and
Sure. So I think that I wouldn't say they're ranked in order of importance, but I would say that the first principle. Now, keeping in mind, I think that he chose the word principle for a reason here. So this is not a party platform. This is a party principles, which is very different. So people have already come out with some criticism about the party platform, but I do just want to take a moment to say that these are party principles. So this is much different than what people are used to hearing as a party, which is ideological, right? Mostly ideological. Most things here are fairly non-ideological. There's a couple there that you might argue hit that, but I would say that at least 4 out of the 6 here are fairly non-ideological, and that's why he went with principles. So I do want to say that the first principle is a democracy reform principle, which I think is highly important, and I think that's why he put it as number 1. So it's ranked choice voting and open primaries, which the combination of those two is powerful. And I think that that's why he put those together. Certainly, those aren't the only type of democracy reforms that can be done. Certainly, there's other types of, voting reforms that could be done. I know the approval people and the star people go crazy whenever somebody tweets about ranked choice voting. So, we're aware that there could be other, measures that could be taken, but certainly this would be a step in a better direction than first past the post or, just simple majority voting. It allows for people to, feel some safety in voting for who they would like to vote. So you actually, let's say you have 4 candidates. One of them is the incumbent. You're not super thrilled with the incumbent. You have another candidate that you love, and then you have 2 that you don't really like at all, or, you're kind of like, meh, I wouldn't really care to vote for them. In that situation, you could rank them in order of, who you would most like to be, most like to win. And, you can put your favorite in the first position, and then you could put, your safety. It's kind of like having a safe bet, like on the second position. So you could put the incumbent to block the other two that you're not too thrilled with. You don't really want them to win, and in that situation, you have a say, in each step of the voting process. That actually creates sort of like a runoff. So it creates like kind of like an instant runoff situation. If you followed the New York City mayoral race, it was interesting to see that play out. Yeah. So that's kind of ranked choice voting. And then we already talked about open primaries. So that's really like the democracy reform parts of the platform. And I think that's what the party will focus on first, as far as what to push and, what to really work on, because it makes all the other things more possible. I believe it makes everything else more effective, and it makes the party stronger and able to do more in the future. So definitely want to talk about that. Mia, did you have something to say about the first principle there?
I am really just waiting to hear more about the second principle, because that is wonderfully vague.
Yes.
I just love how vague it is. It needs more detail for me.
It could be a potential. I've talked to some people about it as a potential. What's the word? I can't think of it now. But when something's going through a funnel and then it gets clogged there, and it can't move forward. I'm not thinking of the word, but it could be just somewhere where we get stuck. Because, if you are talking about fact-based governance, certainly, I think almost everybody would agree is the really funny part, because no one's going to be like, yeah, I'm for untruths and not facts. I like things that are untrue in my government or in my governance. Like, I don't think anyone's going to say that. I think we just disagree on what facts are and what the truth is, which is the problem. So who is going to decide that? That is a potential pitfall. So I do have a little bit of concern there as well.
Yeah, I'm not.
God.
Oh,
God,
sorry. I'm not necessarily concerned about it as much as I think it's a really good goal. I think that it's definitely something that should be like a principle. When you're talking about principles, that's not talking about like a fleshed out plan. That's like a value, right? So fact-based government is, of course, an important value. I would like to see how we're going to encourage those values. So that's more what I'm interested in finding out.
Yeah, I hear that. I mean, my concern isn't really about the principle, but more about the response to the principle, or I could just see it becoming like infighting over what facts are. And I don't think that's productive. So that's my only concern. It's not really, I agree with the principle. I think that's important. We all need to agree with what the facts are and be okay with speaking about them, and be, open about all the facts and present them all, which is I hope the direction that he's going in. And I think, knowing his mind, that's where he's going with it, because we need to be able to be free to talk about all facts, not just the ones that fit into our agenda or someone else's agenda, or, whatever agenda is happening. So it's important.
And philosophers have been arguing for time on end about the concept of truth.
Right.
So that is it's something that will make people reflect at the very least.
Yeah, quite interesting. I mean, things do change, though. I have a book that's called, like, What If We're Wrong? And it's about all the times that we've literally changed what the facts are and what the truth is based on new evidence. So, yeah, it's interesting. Of course, we all need to agree with what the facts are to get anything done. So I hope that that's the direction it goes in, for sure.
I remember seeing a commercial on YouTube for a masterclass from Neil deGrasse Tyson, where he says, I forget exactly what he says, but it was like something about knowing enough to. Oh my God, I can't. I have it at the tip of my tongue. I'm sorry, guys, but he's saying I guess I forget the word that he starts with, but he says you should know enough to. Anyway, whatever. If I remember, I'll bring it up. I have it at the tip of my tongue, but it had to do with what you were saying. Knowing enough that. Oh man, I can't
know enough to know you don't know anything.
Kind of. He said he's what he ends with is with knowing enough to know that you're wrong. You know what I mean? So you, I forget what
It's okay.
I,
We get it. We get the
I have
point, for sure.
the biggest
Yeah.
brain fart right now.
No, that's fine. We get it. Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway.
So that's number 2 on the principles, and then number 3 is, also contentious, I guess, human-centered capitalism. I think people are just really confused as to what this means, which is unfortunate. What Andrew really means is changing what we measure. While it's important to measure GDP, it's also important to measure other things. It's important to measure health outcomes and education outcomes and, environmental outcomes and all these other things that we should be looking at. How healthy are our kids? How well educated are we? How, much art are we creating? It's, when he talks about wanting to show a PowerPoint at the State of the Union, that's what this is really about. It's really about measuring the human-centered parts of capitalism, and not simply just the growth. When we're just measuring the GDP, we see what happens. We see that the incentives are perverse and that people will do anything to churn a profit, and that's what makes the economy churn. And that's what we're looking at and measuring. And while that's important, while we do need the economy to grow, there's so many other factors that we're missing on in order to improve society as well, and create some incentives for some better behaviors, not just profit. So I think that's really what it is. It's not really about capitalism, socialism, or all these things that people want to make it about. It's really just about measuring the right things, and I think everybody would agree with that. If they really thought about what he was meant by that.
I think it would be a good idea to maybe do an informational with these. Like, it could be snazzy too. You could make it graphically pretty and all that kind of stuff, where you just kind of run through the concepts and define them before somebody else can define them for you. Because that's really what's going to happen, is people are going to run with ideas and try to be the ones to brand your thing how they see it.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure you don't have that happen. So I think probably the most important thing is to make sure that these are presented cohesively.
Yeah, I've already heard people doing it, being like, why doesn't he just call it social democracy? Or why isn't it just like democratic socialism? What is that? And it's like, okay, that's not what the principle actually refers to, though. So yeah, we definitely need, I hope that he has plans to make, infographics. And if he doesn't, that, people will step up and do it for him. So
Yeah.
we'll step up and do it.
We've got the Yang Gang.
Yeah, we'll create those.
we've got the Yang Gang who usually steps up to do things. But I just want to highlight something. So this is kind of what I was talking about with Neil deGrasse Tyson before. Sorry. So it's again, I forget exactly how he described. I think he says to know enough. There's a word that he says.
That's okay.
Something to know enough that you're something about knowledge, right? Knowing enough that you whatever you get. Oh my God, I'm such a brain fart. I'm sorry. I'm so embarrassed right now. But I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. Anyway, yes. So knowledge.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Eliana was, absolutely right. We do, things change with new information.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
But we have to.
You can change your mind, right? So changing if you're given new information, you should be able to change your mind, right? So that's it's important.
Yeah, not only your mind, but the actual facts do change.
No, yeah,
and they develop. So that's something that is important. But yeah. All right. So number 4 is effective and modern government. So this is maybe an overlooked principle, but possibly one of the more important ones. I just wanted to pull up the book to actually read on this one. I'm just going to read an excerpt, if you will, if that's okay. Is that cool with you guys?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
It's not very long. So effective and modern government. Americans have lost faith in our government at multiple levels because it often seems hopelessly bureaucratic and behind the times. Interacting with our government should be easy and painless, even elevating instead of something to dread. In many ways, the best way for us to restore faith in our ability to accomplish big things is to adopt higher standards for what we're doing right now. Imagine, for example, if a trip to the DMV or interaction with the IRS were as easy and seamless as online banking. You might become more optimistic about our solving big problems. And most important, our government should treat us as human beings and owners. So, yeah, this is really just, if you deal with the government at all, you know that they're not effective or modern.
Yeah.
Like
No,
you
it's
have
true.
to, have you ever tried to, I think I had a problem with the IRS and I had to
Mhm.
I was trying to log into my account and they're like, cool, we'll send you a password in the mail. It'll arrive in like 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah,
And I'm just
they're
like,
very,
what?
yeah, they're very inefficient, you know. So it's like you would think, you would think that they would be, it's the government. They should have the most technology, right, available, but they don't. They don't use the. Maybe they do, but they just don't want to. I don't know. Um, but you're right. It's not. The government is very inefficient in things. They're slow to act. We see that with even with the stimulus checks sometimes. How sometimes even the CTC checks. I think were delayed. I think like 2 months ago or so, or a month ago. So they for what's funny, the government is quick to take our money, but they're very slow to give us back our money, right? And so that's really a problem. I don't know if you guys realize that, right?
Oh,
You go to
yeah, they
pay.
take it right out of your paycheck. Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
you
It's just,
you get
you don't even
a.
see it. You don't even see it. Yeah.
Yeah. When they need that, when the IRS needs their money, they are quick to take it, and they take it in full. But when you have to get it back, oh, you gotta wait. Which is unfortunate, but that's our
Yeah.
government.
I mean, yeah, you really need to have. I think there's another part in the book. I might be confusing it with something else, but where he talks about this guy. This, I think it is this book, yeah, where he talks about the guy coming in from Silicon Valley and he's an engineer and he goes in and he goes to the government to try to help him with something and they're just like so backwards and behind the times and he's just like, what is going on? Like this, he was just like shocked. And yeah, I mean, we saw it with so many things like Obamacare, the healthcare.gov website being
Yep.
a hot mess when it
Yeah.
launched. Like there's just so many examples of why is this not easier and why are we not working on it? We have the best
Mhm.
minds in this country. I truly believe that we do. I believe we have the best minds in especially in technology and engineering. And if they're not recruiting those people to work for the government, then to me that tells everybody that they don't care. And that's the message that we're getting when we try to interact with the government is they don't care about you. You go to the DMV, they don't care about you. You talk to the IRS, you try to get something done, they don't care about you because they're not making it easy or effective for you. And that's the message that people are getting. And that's why people are so, distrustful of the government institutions right now. So I think it's very important, possibly an underlooked principle.
Yep.
Definitely. There is some distracting stuff happening for me in the chat, so I'd like to clarify something. If you want to have a long form discussion about something, it's better to DM us
Yeah.
than to try and engage us while we're in the middle of a live chat. You might have something very valuable to say. I won't know that if I am trying to engage in a discussion with people here. And a second clarification I'd like to make is we have no affiliation with Humanity Forward.
Correct.
I work for Humanity Forward, but that is on an individual basis. And the trickle up is not associated with that whatsoever.
Correct.
So just as a clarification for anybody who might be listening,
Correct.
Humanity Forward has nothing to do with this. Have
Yeah.
a wonderful day.
Yeah, and again, we also are not. This is not the Forward Party, right? This is a whole other entity. So we're just talking about Andrew Yang's book and what he's talking about with the Forward Party. That's all it is. We are not the Forward Party. We are not Andrew Yang. We are not Humanity Forward. We are not the Inca Movement. So please, if you have anything to say about those things, you can keep it out of our chat because it's not, just try to stay on topic, please. That's all.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. So there's that. And then, okay, so then obviously number 5 is, a lot of people's favorites. I think I saw somebody mention that earlier. I think we all know about this, universal basic income. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I feel like it's Andrew Yang. It has to be a principal of the party, right? He's literally the UBI guy. That's what got a lot of us involved and excited about his campaign, and still about him in general, bringing the issue to the forefront. So I think it's awesome. Obviously, it has to be a principle of the party. I think it's the most actual platform, policy part of the principles here. Um, it also could be one of the more difficult ones to get people on board with, as we know, as we've tried to do and we keep trying to do, and it's often frustrating process to get people to understand what it is. But I think that we have to continue to do that work, and it's important, and we're going to keep doing it and keep explaining to people what universal basic income is, what it's not, why it's important, and it needs to be definitely foundational here. So it just has to be there.
Yeah, no,
It's not much else to say.
well, while we're
Yeah.
on that, while we're on the topic of universal basic income, we have to remember also, that any it's a good thing for anybody to push for universal basic income, not just right now we've had the majority of Democrats that have been pushing it, but as of late, we've had people of other parties that have wanted to push it as well. For one, I know in New York City, we're here. Curtis Lewa is running as a Republican candidate. He's adopted a universal basic income. Stacey Prusman is also a libertarian here in New York City, and she's adopting a basic income pilot program as well. So we have different people from other parties that are also pushing universal basic income, and we should be very welcoming of that, because if we want universal basic income to eventually become a national thing, everybody needs to accept it, right? So hopefully, that's something that we can continue to learn to accept, that universal basic income is a nonpartisan issue. It's not, it's really bipartisan. It's bipartisan, tripartisan, quadpartisan, whatever you want to call it. I think all parties should be pushing for it, and we should encourage it. Whenever possible, encourage it, because you know what? Everyone who pushes for it, I look at it like it's one piece of a puzzle, right? So when I say somebody takes a step to push for universal basic income, it's just one step in a journey of 1,000 miles. And if you think about it, how many steps are in just 1 mile, right? We don't know the answer to that. It's almost like licking
Depends how long your legs are. I don't know.
right? Yeah, right. No, but it's true. So if you think about how many steps does it take to walk 1 mile, now one step in a journey of 1,000 miles, you may not agree 100% with a certain basic income, the way they're running it. Maybe there's one little thing that you don't like about it, but you know what? Every single basic income pilot, when you put them all together, creates this big puzzle piece, this big picture that we can go to Congress and say, hey, look, this is what universal basic income does. And if they ask, well, what about this scenario? You know what? We tested that scenario and we did it in here, and this is the result. What about that other scenario? Well, you know what? We tested that scenario in this other part, and look at the results. You know what I mean? So we have to think broadly at the bigger picture when it comes to universal basic income. Not every single pilot is going to be identical. Not every single pilot is going to, do the same exact thing, and they shouldn't, because again, it's one small step in a journey of 1,000 miles before we get there.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'll
I think
say,
it's. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I want to definitely take a moment to say that universal basic income will make up for the support that a lot of people don't actually get, that is inherent in, like, if you have a support network, it makes such a huge difference. I know that I've been isolated before, until like the Yang Gang opened us up and like helped my family out. we were living on my son's Social Security, trying to pay for a house, and we were trapped here. No car, no ability to move. Universal basic income gives options. Now that we've gotten support with people willing to actually help me out, like they've been there for me. I really appreciate that. And everybody deserves that.
Mhm.
Every person deserves that, whether or not they have, enough followers to support them or not. That should not be the measure of how people can survive.
Yep.
And that's basically what it's turning into. The way the attention economy works, the automation pushing people out from basic labor jobs, we are turning into a nation that is ready to just like let people starve in the streets. And I don't want that. And universal basic income is so important.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I'm covering you, Mia, but I just saw this comment. I wanted to bring it up. Red Herring actually wrote a book, and I know that Boyce always mentions this book, and so he had written a book. If you don't know him, he wrote a book called the Red Herring Effect, and he had a certain theory, right? I think on like a certain way that his book was leading until he heard Andrew Yang speak, and he heard about universal basic income. He actually changed a whole part of his book, a whole chapter, because he changed his mind on universal basic income. Right? I think that's correct. I think that's at least that's what I always hear. I haven't read the book myself, but every time I watch Boyce on a live stream, I always hear him talk about that red herring and how that occurred. Anyway, moving on. Sorry.
Oh, we could talk about universal basic
Yeah,
income.
we could do that. That's what we do. I mean, we could do that
That's what we
forever.
do.
That's what we do.
There's 101 reasons why this is the most important thing in the world.
We could do
Yeah.
it forever. I mean, and when Nellie, when you were talking about, how they're going to say, well, what about this? What about that? It's so funny to me because it's like, it's literally just giving people money.
Yeah, I know.
Like all the things that you guys do are way more complex and have way more like whatabouts than just literally just giving people money is like most simple thing that like you could ever do, and they have the most whatabouts for it ever.
Yeah.
It's really hilarious to me, just that scenario where you're just like, you have the money, you give it to the people. And like all your plans are like 600 pages long of like, all the earmarks and different things that you're gonna.
Yeah,
Did you know there's infinite exceptions, and the more you sit there carving out, the more people you are going to absolutely condemn to not getting help who deserve it. Like every exception makes sure that one person who really desperately needs it doesn't get it. And you're doing that for, like, the research shows, like, what, like, a very small percentage, I can't quote the number off my head, of anybody is committing fraud or being, like, untruthful. You're telling people that because other people... I hate means testing. I'm sorry. Like, the level of just upset it makes me is so high.
But,
It's completely unfair, and trying to, like, parse out, oh, here's your food. Now you can take care of your food. But what if my washing machine breaks down?
Correct.
And my kids still got to go to school the next day.
Mhm.
And I don't have freaking quarters.
Yeah, you're correct. The quarters is what's getting me. Actually, it's a good thing you mentioned that, man, because my wife and I we've gone to the bank recently, and we were just going specifically for quarters because of the washing machine in our building. And when we get there, they tell us, "Oh, there's a coin shortage." And I'm like, really? Like, what? I mean, listen, I used to work at a bank. I don't know if anybody knows, but my background is in finance, and I worked at banks, as a teller, as a supervisor, as a, almost assistant manager, right? In marketing as well. So these are there's a whole thing, the whole slew of things. People need money, and people need money. But I want to bring up something. I know that Forward Movement here on has been chatting a lot in the comments, but they do bring up something. And even though we're not going to talk about HF because HF has nothing to do with this conversation, but I do want to mention what he's saying here. Some people, okay, so we're saying, okay, so some people are saying that tax breaks are the same things as UBI, What do you guys think about that? Is a tax break the same thing as a UBI? Um,
No,
what's your
definitely
feeling?
not. Obviously not. I mean, because UBI goes to everybody without condition.
Correct.
Even people that don't pay taxes.
Correct.
So a tax break, I mean, you know, doesn't
I'm
really.
going to be I'm going to say from my experience, and this is not anything official from anybody, but as far as I've heard, nobody's ever claimed that it is a UBI. As far as I've heard, they've claimed it as a step towards UBI.
Oh, do you mean the child tax
If
credit?
that's what they're referring to, that's the
Is
only
that what
thing
he's referring to
I can think of
specifically?
they're
I don't
talking
know.
about.
I don't know if that's what he's referring to. Maybe forward movement. If you can comment on that, are you referring to the child tax credit? Because in that case, I would say yes, it kind of is like a UBI. I mean, listen, as a dad with children, for the past couple of years since they've been born, I've received, you know, this child tax credit every year, but in a lump sum, right? When I file my taxes, I get a certain amount for each child. What they've done recently is said, you know what, we're not going to give it to you in a lump sum. We're going to break it down so you get it monthly. I actually like that idea better. It gives us a little bit more money every month that we can use towards these kids, you know, use for their lunches, use for whatever it is that they need. So I think that's a great idea, and it is kind of like a UBI. Let me see.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
I
not
would
a
say
UBI,
it's
but
not
it's
UBI. I could say it's basic income or
No, correct. Well, I'm sorry. I used.
That's okay. I would say it's like a basic income type of situation because you are getting it monthly.
Correct.
However, it's still the same money on the other end. So I can also see how somebody could argue that that's not because it's still money that you would get anyway. So I can see kind of both sides of it. But the fact that it's delivered monthly, you know, it does make it some kind of form of guaranteed income or basic income. It's not UBI. Just to be clear,
absolutely
because
not UBI.
Yeah,
no one's
people-
claiming it's UBI.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Listen, I use the term UBI loosely sometimes because it's just it's the common thing to say UBI, but sometimes I say UBI when I mean basic income. So it's just, you know, it's kind of like, so I can tell you, my mom, right, when growing up, we know that Clorox is a brand, right? So the actual liquid that's inside of the Clorox bottle is bleach.
Kleenex.
Right? Right? Kleenex. Yeah, exactly. So, but when my mom used to tell me, hey, no, can you go to the store, get me some Clorox? You know, she meant bleach, right? But she would say Clorox. So, you know, it's kind of like the same thing. When I say UBI, yes, it may be a basic income. It may not be universal, but just understand I'm just using the term because it's the most common.
No, we know that you know what UBI is now. I don't think anyone's saying that you don't know. We know you know. We just want to make it clear for other people that may not know because, it just like is a little bit. It's not a huge deal, but it is a little bit of a deal when people think that UBI is anything. Like we saw it during the pandemic where it was like, oh, you got a stimulus check, that's UBI. See, they tried it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Or like, oh yeah, you guys got unemployment. See, that was UBI and that didn't work. And it's like, all right, you guys, that's not UBI. Like, let's be real. Like it's gotta be it's gotta be unconditional. That's like fundamental.
Correct.
All right, cool. So we could talk about that literally all day and night, and we do. So we'll just go.
We do have 2 minutes left.
Yeah, we'll go to grace and tolerance. Just I mean, we probably won't cover it entirely, but I mean, that was really the one that stuck out to me the most, and I actually told Andrew that was like my favorite part of the principles myself. I mean, I'm just going to read what he said. Our enemy is those who would cast our fellow Americans as enemies and an existential threat, and the forces of inertia that make our government out of touch with people. We all come to the table with different experiences and qualities. We're all human and fallible. You know, currently we are polarized and tribal. We will give the benefit of the doubt to ourselves and each other and avoid engaging in the politics of personal attack or destruction. If my family member disagrees with me on politics, they remain my family and I love them as much as ever. So this couldn't be more important for where we are right now as divided and partisan and, you know, where we're at as a country. I think that this could possibly be the most important principle if you look at it from that perspective.
Absolutely. Mia?
I think that the most pushback I've seen on this kind of idea is that people think that they mean that you're like preaching at them that you have to accept people whose views you think are abhorrent. No,
You
that's
mean the
not.
Nazi argument? Anytime you say be nice to people, they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, so you're saying I should be nice to Nazis?"
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not saying that.
No,
Like,
no, that's nowhere near what the idea is.
right.
The idea is that, you know, if you're talking to somebody who you disagree with, particularly like when you're going into an audience or something, when there's other people watching, you don't know who you're reaching, especially online. It could be, it's not Ben Shapiro you're talking to, it's somebody past Ben Shapiro. If you don't like Ben Shapiro, some of you do, whatever. I don't like him, but the point being, you're talking past that person. Mm-hmm. You're talking to the person who maybe is just now tuning into that program you think has bad influences. You're talking to the person who needs to hear this and is, you know, being indoctrinated by the people you think aren't doing the right thing. Yep. And that's the important part of reaching out. Even if you don't think you can convert the person who's there, you're not talking to them. You're talking to the people that they influence, the people Correct. Who have to slip and slide to get to where they're at.
Yeah. And I mean, even beyond that, I think that we've seen so much infighting on, you know, not only in, you know, our movement and the UBI movement or the Yang Gang, whatever you want to call it, and now in the forward movement, but also just, you know, on the left in general. I think there's just been a lot of infighting. And I think that that's also where this comes into play is like, hey, we're not all perfect. Like, we're not all going to say and do the right thing every time and have the best opinion, you know, every single time. But we can, you know, be a little tolerant of that person as you would to like somebody that, you know, is your family member. I think that's why he brings up the family is that like, you know, if you consider someone your family and then they go and say or do something that you don't like, you're going to be like, hey, I didn't like that you said or did that, but you're still my family. You know? Yeah, like I still gotta love you. Like, you know, it's that kind of a feeling, that kind of a vibe.
Yeah, and you'll still go to the you know, that dinner or birthday party that you were invited to, even though you have that little disagreement. You know, so yeah. Sorry, guys. All right, so guys, it is 10:02 p.m. right now. Is there anything else that anyone wants to say? Any closing arguments? Anything else?
We only had time for 2 of the 3 things we were going to go for. That's sad. We were going to talk about the when I ran for president article too.
Oh yes, yeah. We can. Yeah, I know that it's 10.
Yeah, it's time to be. We want to be punctual.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, well, guys, Heidi, thank you for joining us. Mia, it was a pleasure doing this again for the second time. I hope that Spider-Man does not do me dirty like he did the last time.
Did you ever get me this one? He did of me on the bongos. Oh my
I did
goodness.
not see that. No, oh my
ask
God.
the voice for it because I can't find it. It's hilarious.
Yeah, Spider-Man does a great job editing these videos. We thank him so much. He's doing great. Well, guys, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe and go read a book, preferably.
And special thanks to Heidi. It's so good to catch up with you.
Yes. Of course. Thanks, Mia. Thanks, Nell. Always good to catch up with you too. And yeah, looking forward to working together, seeing where the movement goes.
All right. Thank you.
We just danced across the screen. That was great.
All right. All right, guys. Take care. Goodbye.
Bye, guys.